what an honor it is to connect with a guy who goes way back in the lineage of rhythm, where really the birthplace of jazz began in New Orleans. And just by random chance, I was looking through some records, and I found this direct-to-disc record with one of the Phamous brothers, and so I reached out to Johnny Vidakovich and asked him if any of these other cats are still around swinging, and he said, "Man, Ernie, and I'll see if I can track him down," and he did, and I'm certainly grateful for it. Ernie, Elly, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. I'm glad to be of assistance and to be a guest of yours.
It's an honor, my friend. You know, I just was hoping you could go back, talk a little bit about your exposure to any of the spirit churches in New Orleans, like Melvin Lasty had a church. I remember Cyril Neville telling me that, you know, his folks would take him to a Catholic church. I forgot what denomination, but, you know, they were speaking Latin. It didn't make any sense to him, and then he'd go over to Melvin's church, and there'd be, you know, he could feel the rhythm because there was a trap set on the stage of the church. And I just wonder about your exposure, if any, to the spirit churches of New Orleans.
No, not really. But right now I am, pardon me, I'm going to a Baptist church right now. My wife, she passed away in November. But that was her church, and so I started going there. But I'm Catholic, so, you know, I really didn't have too much exposure to the Baptist churches. Now and then, when I was still married.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about her passing. I mean, were you aware of sanctified churches growing up? I mean, were you aware of the Holy Rollers and stuff?
Oh, yeah. I used to listen to a lot of it, even when I was just passing the church. I would stand outside and listen to it. But I never spent much time in the Baptist church, per se, you know.
But I mean, as a kid, though, you used to stand outside the church and feel the rhythm, or at least hear that.
Oh, yeah. Yes, very much so.
Well, I mean, what about where would you say you fell in terms of like your generation? I've interviewed the late great Ellis Marsalis, and obviously you go back in time with like All for One Records with Ed Blackwell and James Black, and I know they were drummers. But can you talk about the camaraderie and the sort of the first bands that you were really a part of?
Well, the first ones, as far as me sitting down and playing the drum set, was in high school. My band director, Miss Yvonne Bush, God bless her soul, she put me behind the drums, and we would play some of the school programs and things. And then later on, our group, a little high school group, formed a band. Gotten the name of it. It's been too long.
It's all right. Wait, was it in New Orleans?
Yes, it was in New Orleans.
Wow.
We would go out of town. What we called out of town, maybe about no more than about 50 miles away, and we play around different small towns, and we'd make about $7 a piece.
I love it.
Which was good money for us at the time.
Absolutely, it was. What years was that? In the 40s or the 50s? When was that?
No, this was around the latter part of the 50s.
Late 50s. You're in and would you say you were playing R&B, like of the top 40 of the day? You weren't playing bebop.
Yeah. R&B. No, I wasn't into bebop then. I was listening to it, but I was strictly rhythm and blues. Matter of fact, there used to be a program come on that came on every Saturday. This is Jazz. I used to listen to that. It came on at 3:00.
Oh my God! Wait. They were playing R&B or were they playing bebop?
No, they were playing bebop then, but I kind of jumped the gun. But
no, it's fine. I really want to go back to this R&B band. I mean, were you playing like Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, or was it like coming out of New Orleans? Like, I mean, who were the cats in New Orleans at that time that were like R&B stars?
Oh, it was Ernie.
Yeah.
Who else? Of course, Pat Domino. And
was like Earl Palmer around at that time, or Toussaint?
I think he was around recording some before he went to Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So by that time, I was in high school. I really didn't know much about them. I heard the records they were on, but you really didn't know who it was on drums at the time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. This is unbelievable. So you got $7. Were you like? Would you consider it a tour? Would you go out for multiple days, or was it just like a one-off gig, like 50 miles outside of New Orleans?
It was just a gig. We'd whoever, like picnics and different things we'd play for. They would provide the transportation. Now all of that $7 a piece, we had to chip in all together and get a sound unit. So that made us really earn maybe about $6 a piece. But it still came out good.
Hey man, at that time, that could get you some. Soda pop, some snacks. I mean, you're doing all right.
$6. That would go kind of far then.
It really would. Wait, were you saying you had to get yourself a PA system, a sound system?
Yeah, from American Rental. We rented from them.
American Red Dog.
Rent all.
Okay, so and then what?
And then we sometimes if the gig was local, we just all take our equipment, get on the public service bus, and go to the gig. For rehearsals, sometimes we go to rehearsals with it.
But you were lugging your full drum set around on the public bus.
Yeah.
This is the greatest thing I have ever heard in my life. Man, this is great, man.
So, to be honest, it really wasn't in my set because it had Frank Johnson. I'll never forget his name. I guess he's passed by now because he was older than I was. I'm 81 now. But he used to, without a doubt, he was really good artist. He would let me his drums anytime I wanted to use them.
Oh my God! Wait, he was older than you.
Everything,
That is so freaking beautiful. So so you were listening to. Well, obviously, New Orleans has a certain style of jazz, but then bebop sort of came. Obviously from, you could say, like Dizzy and Bird. When did you actually try to get into trying to understand what those rhythms were about, or were you just somebody who was knew it was hip music, but you were gigging playing other types of music like funk and R&B and that stuff?
I liked all of the music.
Yeah.
My brother, oh bless his soul, my oldest brother, really was talented as a drummer, but he never did sit behind the drum set. But he used to, like I said before, listen to This Is Jazz. Every Saturday we would do our iron our shirts and pants and shine our shoes while the radio was on. This Is Jazz was on. So he'd listen, he'd get a Coleman brush and start beating and playing on the radio and playing. And now and then he stopped and tell me, say, look, come listen to this. It's just got Miles and all, Beers and all of them were playing. So that was my first exposure to jazz. But, well, I'm saying that didn't realize it at the time, but going to school, I'd hear different people practicing, different groups playing. I hadn't really realized who it was, but the New Orleans influence had gotten into me. Plus, me being from New Orleans, I was also influenced by everyday situations, like with the Mardi Gras Indians and the rhythms and even the way we talk, So that's how I got exposed to it.
You talk, I think I couldn't ask a better person when you talk about, like, how would you describe, it's sometimes it's hard to put into words, but incorporating that New Orleans feel into, at that time, modern jazz. I mean, it's fair to say that jazz hasn't taken a whole lot of steps since that time. I mean, the word fusion has come up, but that could be. I mean, that could have been Chano Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie in the '40s. That was fusion music. So I'm just curious about, like, would you weren't playing in a trad band, but you were combining those New Orleans rhythms in it once you got comfortable with it within a jazz context. Can you go a little bit deeper on what that was about?
I would play with different people. With each group I play with, I'd learn more and made my mistakes, but as everywhere else, everyone else has the way to learn. I was never afraid to make the mistakes, but I played with, like, Red Tyler.
Right.
He's very mild mannered, very good leader, great musician. If you made a mistake, nobody would be looking at you, turn around and look at you. You just made a mistake, that's all.
Play through it.
And let's see.
What about, let me ask you about, like, this is so important. So, Red was kind of like, none of these cats, these older guys, like, none of them would tell you what to play, right? I mean, they would let you kind of be yourself. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I don't think they would even think about telling somebody how to play, because I guess through their own experience, they didn't like anybody to tell them how to play.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, let me be what I am. Let me make my mistakes. Now, the next time, if you make the same mistake, then I'd be hard on myself. But no, there was no one looking at you or turning around when you made a mistake. So I really felt free. When I came back from Ray Charles, I started playing with some older pros, with Placide Adams and Waldron Joseph, real old pros.
Oh my! But I need to know about these cats, man. Who were they? I've never even heard of them.
Oh, they New Orleans jazz.
Oh man!
A lot of people call them Dixieland, but it's New Orleans jazz.
So that's the people call it Dixieland, but that's really the wrong name. It's New Orleans jazz.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, from that name comes from somebody else, not around New Orleans area or the southern part too. I don't know, commercialized, whatever.
Absolutely.
And it was, but they played with the New Orleans feeling. It really swung. I was really learning something that was altogether different from the really modern stuff, but it was still New Orleans jazz. Now, going back to the more modern stuff, I played with Ellis a couple of gigs.
Yeah, I'm curious about like your thoughts about New Orleans jazz. I mean, especially coming from the African American community. Like, do you think there was a Native American rhythm in that music?
Yeah, it's a New Orleans feel.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm trying. I mean, I'm a New Yorker living in Arizona, and I mean, I've gone to New Orleans, and I kind of know what you're talking about, but it's not like like to me, Dixieland music that the way it's commercialized is very quantized rhythm, so it's very straight up and down, and I don't feel that that's the New Orleans sound. New Orleans sound to me is very round, and so
Yeah,
like,
well,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, please. I'd love you to talk about because I mean, a lot of you go way back when. I mean, slaves were going to the Indian communities, and they'd have tambourines. They'd be housed there. I mean, there was a lot of crossover, and I just believe that a lot of that rhythm came out of that sort of intermeshing.
Yeah, it came from Congo Square.
Right.
That's where the slaves had their days off and different rhythms, and here they come they got the horns from Europe, but they incorporated their rhythms with the horns, and then New Orleans it's a funny thing about, I don't know where it first started. I think it must have started on Congo Square accent on 4 sometime.
Right.
And only New Orleans was doing that. Even later on, as I started playing and then go different places, people would come up and comment about, hey man, you accent on 4. I just took it for granted that everybody played like that. It didn't seem like a big thing to me, but I guess it was. It was new to them, but it wasn't new to me. And most of the drummers I heard, David Lee was a great drummer. James Black and all of.
Who'd you say was a great drummer?
David Lee, did you know?
Dude, I've been listening to him with Dizzy, man. It's I freaking love David Lee. Dude, when did you first cross paths with David Lee?
Oh, I've been doing that. We stayed in the same neighborhood. I lived in the Desire Projects for a while when I was in high school. And I used to pass his house sometimes. I'd hear him practicing. Sometimes I would peep and I'd see him practicing. He would he would wear some army shoes, real heavy shoes.
Yeah.
And always practicing such things. Then he came back there by the high school where I was going to at Culver for a while, and he was showing me some things. Unbelievable. He was beautiful.
Dude, the guy he rest in peace. He left us a while ago, but that dude, I mean, I'm going back to my interview here with a cat who I'm praying is still with us, is Chuck Beatty, the bass player.
Yeah, Chuck passed away a couple of months ago.
He did. Okay, so I did this great interview with him, and he talked about Claiborne Avenue. There used to be a bunch of clubs. He played with June Gardner and Ed Frank.
Yeah, Frank, I used to love playing with that Frank. We worked together, me and that Frank, for a good while at the Palm Court in New Orleans. And I used to love working with him. Even after he had the stroke with that one hand, he did more with one hand. A lot of people
could do it with two, man. Unbelievable. So I just like you. Did you go on the road? Did you tour with anybody prior to meeting Ray?
No, not really. I guess I was an Air Force man, so that really wouldn't count. But I did did some USO type shows all during the states.
Wow.
ATC.
Wow.
Different.
Was it like a big band, or like what was the kind of music? Was it just...
It was a combo. It was about 6 pieces, I believe.
Oh, and it wasn't that big. Wow. So you were that, but that was when you were in the Air Force.
Yeah, that was an Air Force band.
Where were you like?
For 4 years.
You based out of like Kentucky or something? Where were you?
No, right there in. Well, at first I took my training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio.
Okay.
And I got shipped up to Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Wow.
And I stayed there for about 2 years. Then I moved again back down to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. And so I stayed there until I got discharged.
What was the year you got discharged?
1965.
Wow. Were you aware of the Beatles at that time? I mean, they had already come on.
Yeah.
So you knew the Beatles then.
Yeah.
What was your take on sort of the burgeoning? I mean, prior to that, everything was. I mean, you know, even in the late 50s, you guys were borrowing and getting the sound equipment, but you were playing out of not very good PA systems. I mean, you could not always hear yourself on stage. And frankly, jazz is acoustic music. I mean, that's the way people looked at it. And then all of a sudden, people were plugging in. And I just wonder what you felt about, or did you, when you got back to New Orleans, what were some of the, did you go back to playing R&B, or and like, how did you sing for your supper when you got discharged?
I stayed around. I didn't do much. I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do. I could have drawn unemployment for a while, but I was 19. Let me see. Yeah, I was 19. Let me see. I was 19 when I joined. So I was about 23 or so.
Right.
When I got out, I could have, as I said, I could have drawn unemployment from Uncle Sam, but had my pride. So I just took a few little odd jobs, even drove a taxi for a while.
Sure.
I ran into a partner of mine, God bless his soul, he's passed, left-handed drummer too, Calvin Howard. He talked me into going up to Grambling. So I went to Grambling and had a scholarship.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
Matter of fact, that band that Grambling band, that was the band that played in the very first Super Bowl in Los Angeles.
Get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
What, 68? What year was that?
Let me see. You would have to actually.
It's fine. I mean, well, the point is that within a year of being discharged, you did some odd jobs, but you were at Grambling by 66, 67, you would say?
Yeah, matter of fact, yeah. I went to Grambling 66.
Unbelievable. Tell me about that band. Were you guys playing original tunes? What was that band? How did you guys, that's insane how did you get that Super Bowl gig? That's insane.
Oh, the band was magnificent. We used to do the fast steps, you know.
Sure.
When we did parades, you'd have to put us in the front because by the time we finished about 12 blocks or so before the next band would come up. You know, because we would march fast through our show and all, but it's a great band. I lost a lot of weight. I came there kind of out of shape, but I left there in good shape.
So you were just playing. You weren't playing a trap set. You were just hitting the drum.
Oh yeah, well, in the marching band,
right.
I played the large bass drum. The one that you call a caddy. He had one of the band members would pull the bass drum, and I would play the bass drum.
Did you play? I'm just curious if you played if you played sororities or fraternity parties with a smaller ensemble outside of the big band or classes.
Well. By that time, we had another band which was formed on our own. We had our own jobs. We used to go to Shreveport,
wow,
Monroe, different places, and do our little gigs and have a good time. By that time, around that time, let's see, Burger King was about 50 cents for
that sounds fantastic. 50 cents for a burger, right?
Yeah, a Whopper.
A Whopper, 50 cents for a Whopper.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, this is great, dude. You could buy you could buy 14 Whoppers with $7, you know?
Yeah, well, that one Whopper was enough. That's what they really.
Oh man, this is again though. It wasn't. What were you playing, the hits of the day or what? I mean, I'm trying to.
I've forgotten what the hits were, but
sure.
But we were playing rhythm and blues then. You know, we weren't playing. Well, now and then we start off with maybe we call ourselves playing jazz. You know, and then that's it. The people, the audience, the youngsters, you know, not high school, but college kids, too. They would come. But they didn't want to hear the jazz. They wanted to dance. So,
sure.
You know,
well, I'm curious. Like, I mean, at the time there were these fascinating. I'm just going to throw out a couple of names, but like Les McCann and Eddie Harris, compared to what? That was kind of a crossover hit. Then you had the Jazz Crusaders. Were these bands that were on your radar? Because they were playing tunes that could appeal to, even in 67, 68, they were appealing to a rock audience who wanted to dance.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were around as popular as they had become.
You're right, Ernie. You're right. Yep. Yeah. They were just getting hot at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've forgotten who was the hot ones at the time. I can't even remember what tunes we were playing.
I mean, you know who was, you know, the guy who was hot at the time was Cannonball Adderley.
Oh yeah. We used to do some of his stuff too. You know, with that funky rhythm.
Oh my God, dude! Yeah, dude. My God, Roy McCurdy.
Yeah, he liked New Orleans music and musicians too. You know?
He did. He worked. I mean, he taught it at a university in Florida. I know that guys like Johnny and James. I mean, he'd come into town and bring them in as the rhythm section. You know, he loved the New Orleans cats. You know.
Oh yeah, he come to New Orleans and ask for certain musicians, of course, for Ellis and I'm getting old.
You don't need it. You're doing great, man.
Trick Bag.
Luther Kent, maybe.
No, I can't. I'll think of it probably after we hang up.
No, though this is only set one. No, I just wanted to ask you about. So you're at Grambling. Did the music find you, or did you believe that you could make a living as a professional musician once you graduated, or was it kind of destiny? I assume that at around this time is when Ray found you.
Yeah, well, I went there. I was a music major, so that's all I ever wanted to be. So music theory and everything. And matter of fact, I had because I learned a lot of it in the Air Force band, the theory and all, when I took the test.
Wow.
You know, I had a lot because I was a freshman then, because I was older, but I was still a freshman. But I had the experience and God going back to Miss Bushik, and God bless her soul. she introduced us to music theory in high school. So that carried on into the Air Force Band. So by the time I went to Grambling, and I took the test, I was advanced. So I didn't have to take any kind of remedial this or that, As a matter of fact, later on, I started teaching. They gave me a class, percussion class himself,
Are you kidding? But this is much later on, though.
No, not much later on. I don't know, maybe about, a few weeks or a month. So I put on my suit. I had a nice little Mr. suit. I had a nice little black suit, and it looked presentable. I told him I looked like a gentleman. But anyways, put on my suit and go every Friday. I think it was Fridays.
I just want to say that this is one of the. I mean, I have seen this record before. I can't believe. I don't know if it even listed the personnel on the back, but I just want to say that I will never pass this record up again. 1970, Ray Charles, My Kind of Jazz.
Oh yeah.
I just want to. Okay, so first of all, Edgar Willis, Ernest Elly, Teddy Edwards was arranging on it. Bobby Bryant. Now this was done in L.A. I just want to read off the tunes because I have a feeling this is going to spark your memory a little bit. This is the jazz that you guys played on here. This here by Bobby Timmons. I Remember Clifford, Benny Golson, Sidewinder, Lee Morgan, Bluesette, Toots Thielsman. Then there's a Senior Blues, Horace Silver. One Ray Charles tune called Booty Butt. I mean, how that to me is one of the most profound things. So just going back for a minute, how did Ray come into your existence?
Going back to the Air Force Band, who was with Ray. Well, to start off with Ray's band, he was playing tenor alto saxophone with Ray Charles's band.
Who was?
J. Clyde Miller. Okay.
Okay.
So we were in the Air Force Band together. We were stationed together at Lackland Air Force Base.
Right.
Now, by this time I had gotten away from Grambling. I was married, and we were living in a little one-bedroom apartment in the back. So one night I heard a knock on the door, and it was J. Clyde Miller. And he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm with Ray Charles now." Anyways, so we went out now. And before he left, I jokingly said, "Hey, if Ray Charles needs a drummer, tell him give me a call." Joking. And I didn't know at the time, he had in the back of his mind, he said, "You never know." And later on, I got a call from Ray Charles's Vice President Joe Adams. I hope he's still living. I don't know.
Right.
Anyways,
how much long after?
After that?
Well, no, I mean, when Miller said you never know, and then how quickly after that did you get the call?
It must have been months or so. I don't know.
Wow, dude. So he was like, he said Ray wants you to make a record with him, or Ray wants you to go on tour with him?
No, he didn't say anything like that. J. didn't say anything else more. Before I knew it, I got a call from Joe Adams, his vice president, and Joe Adams was very sophisticated. So Mr. Charles wanted you to meet him at I think it was the Sheraton Airport Hotel, such and such, to audition. Anyway, by such and such a date. By that time, I started getting cold feet. So I even...
wow.
By that time, I had to get my stuff out the pawn shop. My cymbals. I ran into Tanu. Tanu was a great drummer with Fats Domino.
How do you spell his name?
I don't know how he spelled. That was his nickname, Tanu. His name was Coleman. His last name was Coleman.
I get no. So so you had actually sold your drums back to the pawn shop.
Yeah, I only had my cymbals.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah, so I was getting my cymbals out, and I talked to Tanu, and I said, "Yeah, Tanu, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna go." He said, "Look, you go. You never know. All them cats that on the radio and stuff you hear record. It's not all that great.
Right.
You play. You go. You see how you see, and I think it's his words that really pushed me over to go. I was scared as could be, but
was I'm talking the Sheridan Airport? You're talking about New Orleans at this point, or what? Where?
Yeah. That's at the airport, in New Orleans.
Got it. Okay, so you show up there, and
I didn't.
You got cold feet.
I got cold feet, and what happened? For some reason, I didn't miss it on purpose, but I did. So I got a call from Joe Adams. How come you missed the rehearsal? I said, I don't know. I got mixed up,
Yeah.
I thought it was all over. But before I knew it, they sent me a ticket anyways, So I went to rehearsal, set up my drums and everything. And the band was going over some numbers, different things. And by the way, that was really my first big band experience. What I had before, I'm going back some. Before I got there, when I found out I was going with Ray, I got every album and stuff I could think of with Ray Charles and listened to all the music and just studied it. A lot of it I had known, but a lot of it I didn't. So I knew his music, But then again, when I came to rehearsal, he must have had about 4 or 5, maybe even more, books with charts, about 500.
Oh my! So I just want to be clear. The you were invited to audition, and you got cold feet, and then
I wasn't invited. I was to make the rehearsal.
Right, you got cold feet, so then you came back, and they still wanted you. You went to the rehearsal, and
I don't know. I had planned on going to the Sheraton. I don't know what happened. I got mixed up. It was an honest mix-up.
Sure.
That's why I missed it. Not because I had cold.
I did. No, I did. You were nervous, but you were gonna make it, but it just got crossed up.
Yeah. So at the rehearsal.
If you could, if there was one thing that Ray Charles taught you about life or music, what would it be?
He was so smart, so brilliant. He really was a genius. I don't know, just to be strong and stick with your conviction. Being honest, straightforward.
He was. Can you talk about? Did he have to? He was straightforward with you. Was it at a certain point he didn't call you out, but he needed more from you? Or obviously it's he's lacking his primary sense. He's an incredible player, but he's also up against a lot of racism, and he's still singing and playing his ass off, and he's a celebrity, and he's dealing with all the drama. But honesty is a big deal. So how was he honest to you?
He told me when it was wrong. But he also let me know when it was right. You know, I learned a great deal from him. I got a couple of little raises from him. He liked me because of my honesty. And, well, I would check with him to see if everything was all right. You know, if it wasn't, you know, he'd tell me. But to be honest, after a good concert, I would go to his office. I knew it was good. Well, I guess being young too, I guess I wanted to be patted on the back. So I'd go, hey Ray, was everything all right? And looking back at it,
Yeah, and he's like, it was just fine. I mean, you flew out to L.A. to cut that album with him, My Kind of Jazz?
We cut it after the tour was over with. The whole band flew back to Los Angeles, and that's when.
All right, so I want to go back to, so you went to you showed up second time for the rehearsal, you got the gig, and you immediately went on the road.
We stayed around Los Angeles and rehearsed for about not quite a month.
So I just want to be clear about something. When you got the call to go to the Sheraton, that was in New Orleans.
Right.
So you got the gig, and after that, then you went on tour starting?
Yeah, well, after that, we stayed around and rehearsed for about a month. Let's see, we hit the road about let's see.
It's interesting though. You stayed for a month rehearsing in New Orleans, though.
No, we stayed for a month rehearsing in Los Angeles with the band.
With the band, so you made the gig. You got the gig in New Orleans, and then flew out to L.A. and rehearsed more.
No, I got the gig when I went to Los Angeles.
So,
at RPM Studios, that was his studio, and I made the rehearsals and stuff. I got the gig. Matter of fact, right after I got the gig, and we rehearsed, but his vice president Joe Adams told the clarinet player Claude Miller, he thanked him for recommending me for the band, for the rehearsal.
So I just want to be clear for my own sake. Your brother Miller came to your house in New Orleans, and he's like, I got the gig with Ray, and
right.
And then he turned around and you were like, hey, maybe you can get me on that gig. He's like, you never know.
Right.
And then you got the call to fly out to L.A., go to the rehearsal there.
Yeah. Well, I got the call to make the audition at the Sheraton not Blackstone. I'm thinking of Chicago. At the Sheraton in New Orleans, Sheraton Airport.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah. So they sent me a ticket anyways for Los Angeles. So I went out there and I made the rehearsals, and that was history there.
So then, I'm curious. So then after a month in Los Angeles, you guys hit the road.
Right.
That was outside of Grambling and traveling for the Super Bowl, was that the first road gig you had? I mean, where it was at that level where you were playing can you talk about the venues you'd play at and what that experience was really like?
Well, the biggest thing I had ever done was what I used to play around in the small clubs in New Orleans, and then when I was in the Air Force band, I played around just about all parts of Texas with some groups. I was stationed in at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. So I had me a downtown gig, which I wasn't supposed to have. But as a matter of fact, I was 19, maybe I just made 20. So I was in the house band there. I remember when I first made 21, and I told the club owner how old I made. I said, 21, he almost fell out.
Yeah, dude, he must have freaked out, man.
In trouble, you know.
Well,
Anyways, I had me a house gig there, and I used to play different jobs that came around. Matter of fact, some of the NCOs had jobs at different Air Force bases, so I ride in the car with them, go to such and such base, and as a matter of fact, we used to ride in a little Volkswagen. He'd take the back seat out and put a set of drums in, and the string bass, and it was the two of us. That was all who could fit. Then the home players would drive their own cars. Anyways, we make those gigs, and so that helped keep some money in my pocket. I was in Airman's first class, and I had three stripes after I came down to Lackland. But then I'd go to the clubs, and around this time, all the fellows with maybe they had three stripes also, and they had been in for a long time, but they would be broke because you'd only get paid once a month. But they had come in and a little change in my pocket, and I'd set up, get a set up with some ice and some whiskey or something. And they used to wonder, how come you always have some money? Things like that. It was fun, And
when you were, but when you, for that month, when you went on the road with Ray, were you playing the tunes off that album? I mean, my buddy and I were we did a deep dive on that album. We've never seen it before, My Kind of Jazz. And it strikes me as like, it was an instrumental album. I don't think, was he singing on it? I don't think he was. It was all jazz tunes.
I don't quite remember. I have it here somewhere. I don't quite remember. Besides My Kind of Jazz, that was Jazz 1, I think, or something like that. I don't quite remember what was on it. I didn't. To be honest, I wasn't quite satisfied with that album.
Tell me why.
I don't think my playing was up to par.
Mm-hmm. But did you? I'm just curious, like your memories of that session. So you went on. I just want to be clear. You rehearsed for a month, went on the road, then came back and recorded the album.
Yeah, after the tour was over, and we came back to Los Angeles to the studio, and we recorded the album.
Was part of it like the way it was recorded? I mean, were you in a booth? Or were you all in the same room hitting at the same time? I mean, to me, like maybe you had a hard time. I mean, that's obviously he had state-of-the-art studio, but I'm just curious about the recording process of specifically the rhythm section.
Yeah, well, we all were in one large room, but they had partitions.
Baffles. Baffles. Yeah,
but it was just about the whole band was in the same room. We had a large studio, and matter of fact, he recorded it.
Wow.
That's something as many. Well, you know how many dials and everything. The recording has to record, but he knew what he was doing.
Wait, he actually engineered the session too?
Yeah, he had the engineer was there too, but he was sitting back there. He knew what he wanted.
Unbelievable. So he produced his own album.
He was pushing some dials, Yeah. everything was a challenge to him. Sometimes we'd be in the airplane. You know, he had his own private plane, a prop jet.
Sure.
And wake up and you look, the pilot kept the door open. Sometimes you look and you see Ray behind a pilot seat, you know, with the earphones on and flying the planes. You know, that was something, but everything was a challenge. But yes, we recorded in Los Angeles, My Kind of Jazz, and I think that My Kind of Jazz.
Absolutely, it's amazing. I mean, did you like? I mean, when I think about Senior Blues or Bobby Timmons tunes, I mean, those guys will play the head, chorus head, and then they'll leave the tune. They'll leave the head of the tune and stretch out. Did Ray? I mean, I think it's one of those things that I'm fascinated by. You know, you listen to most of his stuff, and it's pretty. It's right there for you. It's strong, solid, danceable R&B. But with this kind of music, this jazz, my kind of jazz, did you guys stretch out a lot?
Well, of course, with the music written, you have to stick to that. But you have for the solo. When it's time for the soloist, he could play what he wants to play as long as he's playing the right changes and everything else.
Right.
If he has maybe 32, 36 bars or so, and he'll play that. Now and then, somebody would take some extra ones. They say, let him go. Then the band would know when they come in. The band director would tell them to come in, you know, would give them the highest side.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Did Ray have chops to stretch out? What was his instrumental chops like?
The solo, in certain bars he would take, maybe as like everybody else, when it's time for the piano solo, he'd take 32, 36.
Wow.
And then come in, and he knew every note, every instrument in that tune. He knew who was supposed to be playing what. Now, if it could be the third, sometimes we have a full trumpet. If he wasn't at rehearsal, if he wasn't playing the right note, Ray would stop the band and say, "Hey, such and such and such. You're playing such and such note. That's wrong. Just play what I have written." That's an ear he had, you know. And he wouldn't do that on the performance.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a little bit. Although it wouldn't surprise me that he would do that, but he wouldn't do it live.
No. But if it's something like that, though, if he would do it maybe after the concert or when the band. Well.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, dude, Donald Byrd, these guys, like, they'd have the band back after the gig to work stuff out if there was a mistake, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just, like, did you, like, part of me, like, do you think Ray if he could have done anything, he was a super seriously stone genius, and you don't throw that word around loosely, but, could he have been, like, a Chick Corea or a Herbie Hancock? Did he have that kind of, did he have that in him? He just chose to do it the Ray Charles way.
Yeah, well, he was doing what he wanted to do. He loved big band.
Right.
Yeah.
He loved the big band. He loved the big band. Yeah.
He was a real good player. Not that many people as far as could play as well as far as like Chick Corea, but Ray could hold his own.
Wow. Wow. That is so freaking cool.
Musician. Yeah, he was amazing. And he played, when he'd come on for the show, he would come on sometimes playing this alto saxophone.
This is so great. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, he's blowing the horn, dude.
Speaking while we're talking about, you've seen the concert, the 1969 concert in Paris, Ray Charles in Paris?
I will now. I'm not. No, is it on YouTube? Is it out there?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Matter of fact, a buddy of mine called. It's on YouTube. Ray Charles in Paris, 1969.
Ernie, Elly on drums.
Yeah, the whole band.
Oh my! Is he playing sax?
Yeah, and it shows him when he comes on. Yeah, he plays sax when he comes on.
That is
and
so
also,
ridiculous.
They have. He's got plenty of them on YouTube, but the ones I'm on, I'm that one was in 1969 in Paris, and another one in 1970 in Italy. That's not as good as the one in Paris because the one in Paris, the recording was excellent. And everything, the sound, everything.
Right, it was a pro shot. Yeah. It was the other one was a bootleg.
Yeah, well, it was all right, but they had a lot of narration in Italian. But as far as they started doing too much for the different sound effects and different effects and visual effects, and then he had problems with the sound man. You could tell him in this video. Turns around, talks to the bass player to tell them, for the bass player to tell the sound man such and such thing or whatever. Right. But the Ray Charles 1969 in Paris. That's the good one.
Dude, that's going to be on the on the big screen tonight, dude. I'm gonna be cranking that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. And the one for 1970, they have plenty of Ray Charles that they have more than one for 1970. But this one is in Italy, 1970, and there's another one. But you'll see it.
You know, I would be remiss. I really want you to talk about this. You wound up doing a direct-to-disc album, and I just wanted you to talk about how you connected with the Lambert brothers or Phamous Lambert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because this is really important. I mean, like, I'm trying to find the record, but it was like a quintet. It was a late 70s. I think it was called Dukes of Dixieland. I could be wrong about that, but it was you, Lambert, and then a couple other cats. It was I'm going to look for the album, but talk about your relationship. How do you guys connect?
Okay, well, one thing, we were playing around New Orleans a lot with different venues, and we never did play at Preservation Hall together, but now and then we played together at the Palm Court. Now, for the one pianist I wanted to play with was Phamous Lambert.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I couldn't get a regular gig playing with Phamous there because I loved the way he played. Because I was working at the Palm Court was open from from Tuesdays, or was it? Tuesdays or Wednesdays through Sundays. Sundays also. I was working 4 nights a week there. I worked there for more than 15 years. There were cats trying to get my gig, but I wouldn't let them get it. Anyway, for some reason, I get a chance to work with Phamous. You know, maybe sometimes the drummer wouldn't show up. It got so that I kept around on my off days. I would get dressed, and all I have to do was put my pants and shoes on and go, because I knew this certain drummer wouldn't show up. So I got the gig, but I would happen to to get a gig like that with Phamous, but I couldn't get a regular gig with him, with Phamous, to save my soul. That's who I wanted to play with. He played so beautifully. And I played with his brother, Lloyd. His brother gave me a gig at the Palm Court that's about half a block from where Preservation is. I mean, I say the Palm Court at the I'm getting old.
Yeah, sorry. It wasn't like Tyler's Beer Garden or anything like that.
No, Tyler's, that was a good place to play too. I love playing there.
No, I just want to read that. This is so. This is. I found it's Dukes of Dixieland, New Orleans Jazz on Sandcastle Records from 1980, and this is the lineup. This is the record that when I reached out to Johnny, this is when I was like, "Where is Ernest Elly?" So here's the lineup. Al Bernard on bass, Otis Bassoon on clarinet, Phamous Lambert piano, Ernest Elly drums, Bob O'Rourke on bone, Frank Trapani on trumpet and vocals by Trapani, and Phamous on vocals. Do you how did that come together? I mean, how did the guy who produced it was John Shope or Shoop?
Shoop, yeah. Well, he produced and then he really owned the Dukes of Dixieland. He got the title some kind of way. But anyway, yeah, he produced the album. And, well...
I mean, even... So you couldn't get a gig... You couldn't get a regular gig to save your life with Phamous, but you did wind up in the studio with him.
Yeah, that's when we were playing together at with the Dukes. We would go on the road and everything.
Wow.
But this was before I started. Well, both of us. I was playing at the. No, I wasn't. I was thinking about the Palm Court. I wasn't playing at the Palm Court at the time. I don't think Phamous was either. But this was. I was trying to get that gig with Phamous at the Palm Court. After he started working there on Thursday nights, I think. Yeah, Thursday nights. And I was working there just about every night but Thursday. And that's the gig I wanted, just to play with him, And matter of fact, my mother, God bless her soul, she was crazy about Phamous too. She heard and looked at one of the recordings we made, And every time, sometimes I walk into the house, "Hey, Mom, how's Phamous?" They asked about Phamous before you say hello to me. But yeah, he was a terrific player.
Did you know him? I mean, did you first? Did you know him before you joined Ray, or only after you got back to New Orleans?
Well, I knew him around New Orleans, playing. We were playing different gigs around New Orleans, but no, not before, And Phamous had come from Chicago. Did you know that Phamous had played with Miles Davis at one time?
He did not.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
John Brunius knew him. He played a gig, and Miles was there, and Miles asked him about Phamous, So
dude, everybody wanted a piece of Phamous, man.
Yeah, look, he was terrific, He played solos out of sight, I just loved the way he played,
It's such an honor to talk to Ernest Elly right now. I wanted to ask you, I talked to quite a few guys, Charles Neville, rest in peace. He wound up getting busted for 2 joints and wound up going to Angola. And James Black was in there at the time, and George Porter told me he'd go out and play benefit concerts at Angola. What was your? Did you go out and play concerts at that jail? I mean, that place is.
No.
You never even did. You ever go? I mean, to me, Gil Scott Heron wrote a song about it. It was really a very heavy place. They didn't have air conditioning for a long time. It was a very brutal place.
Yeah. No, I never. I don't even know how to get there.
I love it, dude. Ernie Elly steering clear of Angola completely. I love it.
Yeah.
So when you when you came back, well, first of all, after the record with Ray, did you do that one? How long did you spend with him? And then where did you head back to New Orleans after it was over?
Yeah. I spent just about 3 years with him, 1969 through just about 72.
Wow.
December of 71 going into 72. And I came back to New Orleans, and I was, Wilder Davenport is responsible for me playing in the French quarters, because I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to play. I didn't want to play one of the modern gigs anymore, because, I wanted to play them, but, just on weekends or something, that wasn't cutting it. I needed a gig. I could work at least maybe 5 days a week.
I love this.
So I know you're familiar with Wilder Davenport, huh?
That name is not familiar, no.
Yeah, well, anyways, he was the first trumpet player. He played first trumpet on some recordings for Frank Sinatra. No, matter of fact, there were certain charts that Ray Charles wouldn't pull out unless Wallace was the first trumpet player in the band. That's how strong he was.
Wow.
Anyways, Wallace told me he had a gig, so he asked me if I wanted to play it. I said, yeah. So that was really my first experience playing really New Orleans jazz, as far as
right. Before that, you were doing R&B.
Little jazz, like.
So I want to be clear about something, because this is so interesting. At that time, you had what we would consider to be like the birth of fusion music. Return to Forever, Weather Report, Mahavishnu Orchestra. Those gigs you couldn't put food on the table. There weren't enough of those gigs. You had to have a steady gig. Is that right?
Yeah. I was just only had one child at home, my daughter, and I knew I had to send them to school, support them, and my wife was a teacher, but I couldn't stay home and just work just on weekends. I didn't want to do that anyways. So the gig with Wallace, it was good. And then eventually I started substituting right down the street on the corner from where the Preservation Hall was a club called Crazy Shirley's. And they had a terrific band there called the Storyville Jazz Band. George French, best band leader and very good, fine bass player and vocalist. They were there at the club. And
who was in? So the French Quarter gig was more of a small ensemble.
Yeah, it was about, I think we had 5 or 6 pieces. I think so.
Were you?
Most of the job, no more than 6 pieces. Later on, a few years, maybe not too many years later, they cut it down to 5 pieces to all the different clubs started complaining about paying too much and all.
Absolutely. No, it's the Storyville band was a bigger band though.
Yeah, it was 6 pieces.
Okay. So that was a crazy, and so you started playing at Crazy Shirley's with this band, the Storyville Jazz Band.
Yeah, what happened? I was still with Wallace, but sometimes the drummer, he was the band leader, Bob French, terrific. Matter of fact, he was on Downbeat, the front page of Downbeat.
Yeah.
Terrific, I used to go listen to him, when we take a break from my gig, I could go down the street, listen to him play. He played so tasty, and, he played it right, He wasn't all that fancy. He didn't waste anything about unnecessary fancy stuff. He played what was called for, and he played beautiful time, everything. Anyways, so all of the fellas got to know me, and Bob used to like to, anyways, they would call me to come substitute for Bob. So I was doing that pretty often. So as a matter of fact, Ellis Marsalis was in that band too. He was playing piano.
Oh my! Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Who was on bass?
George French. He was the brother of Bob French. Eventually, Bob quit and George took over the band. So George became the band leader. So it was George French on bass, Ellis Marsalis on piano, Otis Bassoon on clarinet. They had a terrific trumpet player, Teddy Rowley on trumpet, and Frederick Lonzo on trombone.
I mean, just another. There's so many different types of jazz. I mean, it's totally valid. It's New Orleans jazz. Would you ever sneak in like a hit of the, sort of like more of a post bop kind of thing, like maybe like a Lee Morgan tune or a Sidewinder?
Look, with this band now, that's what I loved about this band, with the Storyville Jazz Band. We played everything.
I love it. I freaking love it.
Matter of fact, one time, this was after I was in the band for a while, and we were playing Louis Jordan's Saturday Night Fish Fry, and Wallace Davenport was in the audience with Louis Jordan. He said, "Here's Louis Jordan right here."
Oh, God.
And it just so happened that we called Saturday Night Fish Fry, and we didn't know Louis Jordan was in there.
Oh,
and
my.
We had different players, Blue Mitchell, which he was in the band with me with Ray Charles. But he would come in and sit in too. I had different people from the jazz, from
Oh, this is, dude, I just want to be you're a very spiritual dude. I want to tell you why. Did you just say you were on the Ray Charles band with Blue Mitchell?
Yeah, Blue Mitchell.
Okay, I just want to tell you, Ernie, we did our interview yesterday, right? And my friend and I go to this jazz club here in Tucson last night, talking about you, looking up this album, and the band who played last night at the Century Room here in Tucson, they did an entire tribute. They played about 4 Blue Mitchell tunes, including The Thing to Do. I cannot believe that you were on. He's my favorite, dude. I love Woody Shaw, I love Freddie Hubbard, and I love Miles. But I think Blue might be my favorite trumpet player.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, I don't blame you. You have good taste, because he's a very fine player. Well, on this, if you see that, what I was telling you about.
Oh, he's on that video. That Paris 69. Oh, my God, that's insane.
He's on board. He takes some nice solos.
Oh, my God.
Ray calls his name. Beautiful ballads and everything. Yeah. You make it a point to check it out.
That's what I wanted to ask you about the Storyville. So, like, when jazzers would come through town, they'd sit in with you, like Blue would sit in with you guys?
Yeah. Let me see who else.
By the way, I love Dizzy. I should throw Dizzy into that conversation. Dizzy, Woody, Freddie, Miles, Blue Mitchell. I'm sure there's others too, but I mean, those are my favorite.
Yeah. Well, Diz never sat in with us, but he used to come all of the time and sit in or play with some of the marching bands, the brass bands.
Get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, he loved New Orleans music. Matter of fact, I mentioned him yesterday. The drummer.
David Lee, man.
David Lee. He heard David Lee, and boy, you have to excuse me, my memory.
Oh, stop, man. No, I can do. You know what's great? I can fill it in. I just found this album with David Lee and Dizzy on it. It's unreal, dude. It's ridiculous. The other cat, who I'm praying you know, George Davis.
That's who I want. That's who I was. Yeah, that's who I want to see.
The funkiest, nastiest guitar player ever, dude.
Yeah. Plus, they play some things. They go out. You know, they play some things. It's really out there. Matter of fact, I was with Ray Charles and David Lee and George. They were with Dizzy.
Right.
So I was backstage, and Dizzy was back there with me because he was let the guitar and the bass player and the drummer, he let them play for a while, but he was listening to them play, and he said, "Well, you lost me that time." You know.
Wait, so he would? You're telling me that before his set, he'd let David and George and the trio go out and just play, just jam out?
No. This was during their set. Just after.
He came back just to kind of take a break or whatever.
Yeah. While they were soloing.
Oh my God! And they took him out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that is sick.
And the bass player, I don't know who his name was. Oh, he was. You could look at him and see he was holding on for dear life because you never know where these two cats were going.
Dude, I would do anything to know who that bass player was. I mean, George Davis, David Lee, maybe Earl May. Who knows? I mean, this is. I watched the first 10 minutes or so of that Ray Charles Paris video, and I was blown away, man. Blown away. Dude, I could not believe you were playing. That was straight tribal African rhythms for the first 7 minutes or so.
Yeah, that was from the heart, and I was playing behind the great saxophone player, Andy Ennis. You heard of Ethel Ennis?
Not before yesterday, and then I saw him play. I mean, Blue I know, Johnny Coles, Randett, but I mean, dude, the intensity in your playing and your who you were, it was just, I was blown out of the water. I mean, this was you're telling me at that time you were in love with jazz. I mean, I'm sorry, but you could play anything you wanted. That was as good as anything David Lee ever played.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I was ready for that gig. Everything was going so good. The sound was perfect. And of course, I was working with some very great musicians. So,
well, let's just talk. I want you to talk. Can you talk about? I'm not sure if he's still with us, but somebody. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the transcript. But Oh yeah, you know what? That's who it was. A great bass player who passed away last year, Mickey Bass, from Pittsburgh, was telling me about all these great bass players outside of Ray Brown that came out of Pittsburgh. One of them was Edgar Willis.
Yeah. Well, that was Edgar, who you saw in the tape.
Can you? Were you like? This is interesting because can you just talk about like the he was playing an electric bass, and I'm just like within all that brass and with all that. I mean, were you actually locked in with the bass player? Was it harder? Were you? What were you hearing? Because it was not like there was like, you were not playing through like a huge PA system. I'm just curious about what you were focused on, because it was not your traditional, it was a big band with an electric bass, and he was kind of off on the side. And I just wanted you to talk about how you and him worked together to swing that band.
Well, first of all, I have to give credit to the sound men.
Yes.
Because as far as I'm concerned, I think Ray and all the rest of the band, they were comfortable, and so was I. So the sound was great. The feeling was great. We had no problems about, can you turn this up or can you turn that down or something? Everything was perfect. My hats are all to the sound men in Paris. Everything was fine.
Right, but I can't. I mean, there must have been times. I mean, there must have been other gigs where the sound was not so good.
Oh well, if you get a chance to listen to that
Italian one,
Italian tape, that'll prove to you that the sound wasn't great.
So how would you guys work together as a rhythm section if you really couldn't even hear yourself?
Well, by that time we did that tape around the end of the season. So around that time we were used to playing with each other. Right. So it's much better when you can really hear each other. But sometimes you don't have to. It's there. It's not that you're playing completely incoherent or you can't completely hear each other. As long as you could hear somewhat of each other, we could make it work.
But that is so, because you know what's happening in today's world, Ernie, and I don't need to tell you this, but so many cats, I would venture to say, if there's like some kind of big band that's touring Europe and places, the drummer especially is wearing in-ear monitors, and the problem with that is that they're focused too much on hearing themselves, and as a result, they're behind the beat. And to me,
I never did like that, even in the recording. You have to do it in the recording section because you're pardon me, you're off in the booth by yourself. But I like to hear the whole band. I like to hear the whole balance of the band, from the bass to the fourth trumpet player. Well, I don't have the ears like Ray had, but at least the trumpet section, trombone, saxophone section, I like to hear that. And I don't like to play with earphones on, not especially at a concert. I like to hear and feel the big band, everybody in the band.
Right, and then there maybe like some kind of like something falls over on the side of the stage, or someone's freaking out in the crowd, and like that ambient noise is just as vital as, I mean, you want to hear the band, but I'm just saying when you put those in-ear monitors in, automatically you're behind the beat, and why are you so concerned about how you sound? You should be listening to everything else going on around you. That's an old school. You didn't have headphones on in the studio with Ray, though, when you hit as a band, when you recorded that My Kind of Jazz album.
Oh, yeah, we had to have them in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah. We had to have them in the studio. As I said, there was a petition around the drums, and so you had to be able to hear everybody and things. Even some of the horn players might have had partitions around them or something. You know.
Did you ever work in Uptown New Orleans?
Well, yeah, I worked just about everywhere in New Orleans. I guess just about, little old inner walls places. Some places that has the name, like work that I can't recall. I guess you could recall some of the names better than I can right now.
There's one club that I wanted to ask you about. It was called the Nightcap.
The Nightcap? No, I didn't work there.
Because that was more. Would you say that you ever played like a funk gig? I mean, like, did you play? I mean, you obviously could play that kind of music, but you wouldn't necessarily have a steady gig. But I mean, because the Meters would play there, the Wild Chupatulas. Did you ever cross? I know you know who they are, but
yeah.
Did you play with Monk Boudreaux?
Good friend of George Porter. I played some gigs with him.
You've played with George? Dude, you got to tell me about that, man.
Oh, that was with I forgot what we called the group with David Lasty, with George, different people, did different gigs. Let me see where me and we worked different places, but we worked together. I used to like him too. Matter of fact, he was also a drummer too. A lot of people didn't know it.
Well, I'm sorry, George Porter was a drummer?
He played drums too. Yeah.
Well, wait, and what? I mean, what you're? This is breaking news. I don't think. I mean, I never heard that ever.
Yeah, he played a little drum. Matter of fact, when I wasn't too much on the reggae stuff, I really didn't like it too much.
Yeah, well, the beat, yeah.
I asked him to show me how you play that, man. And he sat behind the drums and played it for me. Say thank you. Yeah, he's a talented, really talented cat. I haven't seen him in a while.
I know, man. I feel like I want to call him after this and let him know that when he's in town, you guys need to go get a bite to eat or something. I mean, really, like, George has been I haven't talked to him in a while either, but I mean, that guy, he hooked me up with Chuck Beatty, and he's just, he tried to play upright for a long time. You're telling me that you saw him, or you guys never played double drums together. You just saw.
Well, no, I never saw him behind the set, but I knew he played. He played that for me. I knew he played some drums.
Well, what about?
I never saw him on the gig playing. But
totally no. I mean, what about anybody, like, what about Monk Boudreaux or any of the Mardi Gras Indians? Did you ever get involved with that kind of stuff?
No, not really. John Boudreaux, yeah. I really didn't meet John until I got to Los Angeles. We became good friends,
I'm sorry, who'd you say?
John Boudreaux.
Oh, John. Yeah, let's talk about that. Wait, you met Boudreaux, because Boudreaux was already out in L.A. when you went out with Ray, right?
Right.
So you didn't know John when he was in New Orleans?
No, we were at different times. He was already gone by the time I started playing drums and, got older and different things. I had heard a lot about him. And plus, of course, the Mardi Gras and all the different recordings he was on, heard about him.
He was really, do you remember, like, would you go see him play jazz gigs in L.A.? What was he doing out there? He wasn't really in the studio a lot.
Yeah. Well, no, I never did hear him play in Los Angeles. I really didn't have time.
No, you were kind of busy. I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah, even with the rehearsals, I did a couple of recordings. It was off the record, under the table recordings. Well, I guess I could see it now with Glenn Campbell and I forgot the rest of.
Whoa! Glenn Campbell and Ray did an album together?
Not Ray. Ray didn't do it. We did it in his studio. But maybe I shouldn't be saying that over the radio.
Well, first of all, Ernie, dude, this is on. Who cares? I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter. But you remember the album's name, or you don't remember?
No, I don't.
Tell me about when you got back. Like, how often? When you got back to New Orleans, what were some of the studios where you recorded? I mean, did you ever get a chance to go to C Saint Studios?
Yeah, I recorded there with Wallace Davenport.
Wally Davenport again.
Yeah, I recorded there with him. We did some gospel stuff.
Really?
Wow. And some of this stuff. We did something at C Saint Studios too. The Meters, I think the Meters used to record there some too.
But I mean, like Zigaboo didn't come and you played on. Did you?
Oh no! It was just I was named. I was supposed to be on the gig, for that session. I forgot who it was with.
Because your discography is very, I would just say it's not complete at all online. I mean, when you go online and look up Ernie Elly, there's not a lot of, and I believe, I mean, how many albums do you think you actually played on? A few dozen?
Yeah, it could be, at least maybe 2 dozen. I used to do a lot of recording upstairs at the Palm Court. They had a recording studio there.
They did?
Oh, yeah, they may still have one there. I don't know.
Is it, but you're telling me the Palm Court is still open right now?
Well, it's closed for the summer. It closes, it gets so hot.
Yeah, too hot.
It'll open up again around, I guess, September, something.
So you would because I remember talking to Steve Cropper from Memphis, Booker T and the MGs, and he said that a lot of times, like Al Jackson, after the gigs at like 2 or 3 in the morning, they'd go to the studio and record albums. So were you, after your work was done, would you record later at night up there, like in the upstairs part?
Most of the time it would be when I didn't have to play, it would be on and off day.
I dig.
It might be in the morning or in the afternoon.
You remember any of the leaders that you recorded with up there?
Yeah, I recorded with some, I have the album here too. I can't remember some of the original members who played with Louis Armstrong. I've gotten the names.
Or the Five Pennies or whatever?
No, I can't think of them.
You know what I would love at some point this week, if your records are within reach, just grab a few and let me know some of the stuff, because I'd love to fill in some of your discography. It's very obviously you did a lot. Did you go to Bogalusa to record?
No.
Right, even though there was one of those tracks off that Dukes of Dixieland with Phamous was called Bogalusa Blues or something, or Bogalusa Strut,
Right. Yeah, that was one of my favorite tunes. Yeah, Bogalusa Strut. Yeah.
I just want to run through the 4 L's of my program with you. The first is leadership. Who was the best leader you worked for, and what are the best qualities of leadership on the bandstand?
That's a good question, and I think one of the best, maybe he is the best, George French.
Yes.
With the Storyville Jazz Band.
And explain what made him a great leader.
Well, he knew what he was doing. He called good tunes. He stood when things weren't going right as far as business or whatever. He was there for you. Even when sometimes I getting sick, he'd pay you anyways.
Right. I love that stuff, man. You couldn't make
You
the
know?
gig, but you were still getting bread,
Yeah, and it's not because he had to give it to you. It was from his heart, because we were good friends, Another good band leader was Louis Barberin. God bless his soul. He died young, cancer. He was a band leader at the Palm Court.
Well, how do you spell his last name?
Barbarin. Barberin.
Barberin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Barberin. Trombone. A fantastic trombonist and vocals.
What about Doc Cheatham?
Beautiful. I recorded with Doc too.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it seems to me like, I don't know. Did you work for bad leaders ever, or were you pretty smart about who you decided to take gigs with?
No, well, whenever a recording session came up, I made it.
I did.
Yeah, there was a band leader from New York. I can't think of his name, and I really don't want to think of it.
Oh.
I really didn't like him. We had some words together in the studio, and he had supposed to have been drinking 7-Up or something out of a 2-liter bottle, but it was more than 7-Up.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, I had to just walk out, go outside, and cool off for a minute before I came back in, because I didn't want to mess up, get a reputation of being a hothead or something, or punching him out or something, because I didn't want it to mess with my income, or just reputation. I didn't want that kind of reputation,
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, that wouldn't even have been a fair reputation, but who knows what people would have said if you did lose your temper.
Yeah, especially something a lot of people might comment on you and don't know anything about you,
Absolutely.
But, that was about the only negative experience I had with recording. And I've had some home gigs which we didn't really come together, agree on certain things, but it wasn't that bad. But and I had another good experience at the Preservation Hall with let me see, who was the band leader at the time? That was wait a minute.
Sure.
I can tell you.
Well, we talked about him yesterday. I can't remember what the name was, but
That wasn't okay. Yeah, it was wait, I had, but Kevin Lewis, trumpet player.
wow.
Yeah, he was younger than me. Matter of fact, goes to show you, when I first started playing around that, after I come off the road with Ray, I was in one of the bands. I was the youngest one. Now I wound up later on with the years that went by. I wound up being the oldest one in the band. So that's life, That's the way it's supposed to go. And I like playing with the younger musicians too, because they always had something new, and plus I could always contribute too.
I want to throw out a couple of names of clubs here. The Blue Room, the Paddock Lounge, and the Famous Door.
Okay, the Paddock Lounge is the first job New Orleans Jazz, I don't call it Dixieland, New Orleans Jazz
Yes.
job I had after I got off the road with Ray Charles. That's the gig that Wallace Davenport. I went with
I
him.
remember that was the small ensemble playing New Orleans Jazz. That was your first gig. So that was a 6-night-a-week gig.
Yes. Yeah, at the Paddock. And what else? Which one?
The famous door.
The Phamous Lambert. Yeah, we worked there a couple of times. We were supposed to work there for about 3 weeks, but we didn't get along too good with the owners and stuff. And they said by that time they said we were playing too modern. You know.
It was too hip. They didn't want it to be too hip.
Yeah. So before they fired the band, I quit. I didn't like playing there at all. You know. So I quit before they got another band. Yeah.
I have to ask you about this place too, because a lot of cats, including Chuck Beatty and Charlie Neville and Deacon John, it was called Hayes's Chicken Shack.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because Elvin, I mean, Train used to come there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I only used to just pass there. I never played around that way.
And you wouldn't go in and just hang and watch the tunes? Because at that time, like, Elvin would come and, like, nail his bass drum to the floor with a big nail and a rope. I mean, it was a hardcore...
That was at... It wasn't the Chicken Shack. It was... what was the name?
You gotta nail... You gotta get me this one.
Yeah, it was... Our president of the local here, you see it interview on TV. He remembered it too. Anyways, yeah, but it wasn't the Chicken Shack. It was somewhere else.
Sure. What about? Did you ever cross paths with Earl Turbington and Willie T?
I used to play with both of them. Yeah, both in their group. Yeah.
Who did you not play? Those guys were not playing New Orleans jazz, though. They were playing like out, man.
Well, we played jazz and funky stuff,
So you did play funk?
Oh yeah. That's what I started out with, playing with. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, of course. That was it.
Can you talk about, obviously we're all trapped inside with being blanketed by heat, but do you feel like, well, first of all, do you still play when it's not so freaking hot? And also, do you feel like you're still learning about music?
Well, yeah, you turn the TV on, it doesn't even have to be a record player or something, but you hear something on TV that it'll catch your ear. But I don't play anymore since the COVID came out. I started staying home, and then gigs kind of folded up, and then maybe I was going to New Orleans. I'm living in Hammond now.
Right.
So I was playing maybe once or twice a week, and then and it got really bad. My eyesight started getting a little worse too. So I decided to just stay home, and I don't play. I miss it sometimes, but I don't miss the traffic with I-10. Every time I hit the interstate, there's a traffic jam or this and that.
Yeah, it's not like when you first started out taking the public bus with your drum kit. You could at least get around. There wasn't nearly as much traffic.
I was young then, and nothing could stop me then. I didn't care. So, yeah. I didn't care what it was. I was anxious to play. I still was anxious to play. Well, I got more anxious when it got time to hitting time, and the clock was getting closer to hitting time, and I was still on I-10. That got to be a drag.
A real drag, yeah, man. There's nothing worse than being late for a gig because of traffic.
Yeah. Well, thank God, for some reason, I would never be late. I would be closer, You know, I would call them and tell them, look, turn the drums around for me because it was, you know, I set up like a left-handed drummer would play, but I would play with my right-handed, like a right-handed play, but my feet would play like a left-footed drummer would play. Mm. So I played unorthodox.
That's my favorite kind of drummer, man. First of all, and the other, you know, Johnny V, I haven't known Johnny for decades, but I've known him for a few years now. We've definitely got a great camaraderie. I love him dearly. And I was reading somewhere where he said, they said, who's your favorite drummer currently? And this was probably before COVID, but not that long ago. And he said, Ernie Elly. I just love everything about him, the way his touch, his feel. And I was like, I mean, can you just talk about Johnny V and your relationship with him?
Well, yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. And we call each other up still yet, you know, see how we're doing.
I love it, man.
Yeah, so we keep in touch. And matter of fact, they had it'll be coming up again too every summer. The Jazz Foundation of America throws a little picnic, like not a picnic, but a little barbecue or something, right there at Armstrong Park for the musicians, you know. And me and Johnny, we rode in the same car. You know, we went there and sat down and talked about old times and everything, and seeing some of the other musicians. But John, let me tell you something about John. This was one of the first few days I was at home too. I was playing at boy, there's so many clubs.
I know, man.
I can't think of the name of it. It was a jazz club, and they used two drummers at me, and that was the first time I met Johnny. At that time, both of us were younger. Of course, we were younger. But he had long hair, you know. And the first time hearing him too. First time, I guess that was his first time hearing me too. And you know, from then on, you know, we got together and we liked each other, and we became friends then, you know, ever since. You know, he's a fantastic drummer. He recorded a lot with Red Dollar, and I can't think of the name of it now, but there's a certain tune he plays, the feeling he plays on that tune is amazing. I don't think anybody on earth would be able to play it the way he played. He played, to pardon my expression, but he played the hell out of it.
Okay, there's three. I think we might. I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this to you from Johnny. This is from, I've done about 20 interviews with Johnny, and this is what he said, wondering that maybe some of the club's names will ring a bell. He said, when jazz started to become part of my appetite around 17 years old, I went to see James Moody play at a place called the Jewel Room. Then I'd go to places like Holly's. Does Holly's ring a bell?
No, not Holly's.
Holly's late at night. It was a black bar, but I'd go in and get myself a Coke and a bag.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember it now. It was in the 6th Ward, around Orleans Avenue, around there, yeah.
The only other
Claiborne, yeah.
Now I'm curious, the first time you met him, was it possibly he would go to a place called Gloria's Living Room to see Earl Turbington, George Davis, David Lee, and Willie T.
Yeah. I remember Gloria's. I used to go there sometimes to listen to him.
But you're telling me the first time you showed up for a gig, Johnny and you played double drums?
Yeah.
And that was around 72?
I don't know. I guess so. That was with I think it was Earl Turvington, and I think that was Earl Turvington's. Yeah, that was Earl Turvington's kid.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like you had already locked up the gig at the Paddock Lounge, and you were just sort of like going and just playing a one-off kind of gig, and you just happened to. Johnny had long hair, and you just laid your, that was the connection.
I think this was before I started playing at the Paddock.
Damn.
So that's one of the earlier gigs when I first came home.
Wow, man.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful, man. I mean, my final question for you, Ernie, Elly, is tell me what your concept of love is and how you give love to the world.
Oh, that's kind of a hard question to me. I don't know. It's kind of hard what I could.
I only say, like, as much of a drag as it is, and the traffic and the dragging the stuff around, I just.
Oh, I see, yeah.
No, but I also feel it's not about that. I was just going to say, like, your heart is, that's where the love comes from, and your heart has been on the bandstand for so many years.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. If I had it to do all over again, I would do it in the New York second, with all the hardships and everything else. I would do it again. I've made my mistakes, but which I wish I could go back and correct my mistakes. But as far as choosing music, I'll do the same thing all over.
I love, dude. That is the best. So you are at peace.
Oh yes. God gave me this talent. I was born to be a drummer. God gave it to me.
Right.
Ever since I was little, I used to grab and I have a grandson who does the same thing. I used to grab the pots and pans and beat on and everything else. So I'm glad I did it.
Well, let me ask you before I let you go. Do you know? I assume you're not really on the computer a lot, but I'm just curious about when I put all these 3 segments together and put it up online. Where can I send it so that you can at least listen to it or get a copy of it?
Yeah. You want to take my home address?
Sure, man.
Okay, I'm at. You ready for it?
Hold on, baby. So you can like listen to a CD of it or something?
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I got Ernie, Elly. Go ahead.
I'm at 57. That's 57 Whitmore. WHITMAR Drive. Hammond, HAMMOND, Louisiana, 70401.
Ernie, Elly, 57 Whitmore Drive, Hammond, Louisiana, 70401.
That's it.
All right, man. I will call you when I mail it out. Hopefully I'll get to it this week. And let's just stay in touch, man. It was such an honor. Again, I just happened to stumble into this record, and I was like, Johnny, is there any of these cats left? And he's like, yeah, man, Ernie Elly's still around. I was like, oh, man. So this has been so revelatory, so much great knowledge, and I hope you had a good time too, man. It was really
I really did. And I feel like I've struck up another friendship, so you could call anytime, or maybe sometimes I'll just call you.
Hey, man, call me anytime, man. Call me any. Yeah, let's do it, baby. I mean, it's.
Shoot a fat, or anything. And it's never too early or too late to call me. You can call me anytime.
Love you, man. God bless you, bro.
Thank you, man.
All right, man. Be cool.
Okay, do the
I'll
same.
talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Bye.